Hey, this is a list of questions and answers that are going to be on our final for Anatomy and Physiology. But what I've done is I've broken these up into two videos. First video is really going to be lists and small one-answer questions, or just very small questions that don't require much explaining. And then the second video will be more detailed. I'm going to list the number of the question so you'll be able to follow along. Number 3, be able to list the 4 functions of the oral cavity. The 4 functions are sensory analysis, and that you taste something before you swallow it, followed by mechanical processing, like chewing and mixing, followed by lubrication, where the bolus is mixed with the mucus and saliva, followed by digestion, the digestion of carbohydrates, which begins in the mouth. Question number 4. Describe the platoglossal and platopharyngeal location and what they connect to. They're located in the soft palate, and the soft palate rises to close off the nasal cavity, and it is connected to the tongue by the platoglossal arches, which is connected to the wall by the platopharyngeal arches. Those 2 arches form the fossa. Question number 5. Be able to list the 5 functions of the tongue. Mechanical processing, which is compression and distortion, followed by manipulation, which helps in chewing, followed by sensory analysis, taste, touch, and temperature, then secretions of lubricants and an enzyme, which is lingual lipase, that starts the digestion of lipids, and finally it forms consonants for speech. Question number 6. Describe the 3 types of papillae. 3 types of papillae found on the tongue, and which ones contain the taste buds. Well, first off, the fungiform and circumvallate papillae contain the taste buds, and the taste buds are filiform papillae, which make the tongue rough, like for licking ice cream. Fungiform, they're larger, which give the tongue its red color, and circumvallate papillae, arranged in a row in the back of the tongue. And once again, the fungiform and circumvallate papillae contain the taste buds. Question number 7. The 4 functions of saliva. You got to know these. So it cleanses the mouth, it dissolves chemicals so we can taste them, moistens food so it can be formed into the bolus, and it contains enzymes that start the breakdown of starch. Question number 8. Know what happens with the parasympathetic and sympathetic stimulation of the salivary glands. Saliva production increases dramatically when food is present. We produce over a liter of saliva every day, and it's controlled mainly by the parasympathetic division of the ANS. It increases water content, stimulated with the anticipation of food or when you're about to vomit. The sympathetic stimulation thickens saliva and stops its release or inhibits it. An example is when your mouth gets dry in a stressful situation. Question number 9. Be able to describe the muscular composition of the esophagus, i.e. superior has 1/3 of what type of muscle. The muscularis externa has 2 layers, circular and longitudinal, of muscles. First is superior, which contains 1/3 skeletal muscle, followed by the middle, which contains 1/3 smooth and skeletal muscle, followed by the inferior, which contains 1/3 smooth muscle. No serosa, but connective tissue anchor the esophagus to the dorsal body wall. Question number 10. Describe the three phases of swallowing. The buccal phase, or voluntary, is when the bolus is compressed against the hard palate. The tongue moves the bolus into the oral pharynx, and the soft palate elevates. The next phase is the pharyngeal phase, where the receptors in the arches and the uvula send messages to the medulla oblongata, which then sends messages to the muscles of the pharynx. The respiratory centers are inhibited at this time, and breathing stops. And the final phase is the esophageal phase, where the pharyngeal muscles force the bolus into the esophagus, and peristalsis begins. The cardiac sphincter relaxes when the bolus arrives to allow it to enter the stomach. 11. Know the four functions of the stomach. Number 1, storage of food. Number 2, mechanical breakdown. Number 3, breaks chemical bonds through action of enzymes and acids. Number 4, production of intrinsic factor, which is required for the absorption of vitamin B12. Number 12, know what causes gastric ulcers and the effects on the stomach. Breakdown of mucus lining. Ulcers are caused by the breakdown of the mucus lining. If untreated, they can cause perforation of the stomach and lead to peritonitis and hemorrhaging. They're now thought that most 90% are caused by bacteria. They previously thought it was caused by hypertension and some other stuff, but it's not. Question number 14. Notice I'm skipping 13 because that's a little bit more in detail. So we're going to 14. Know the four functions of an acidic stomach. 1, it kills microorganisms ingested. Then it denatures proteins and activates enzymes. And then it breaks down cell walls in plants and connective tissues in meat, and it activates pepsin. Skipping 15, going on to 16. Know the role pH plays in gastric regulation, i.e. when and where it is low and what changes the pH and what happens when the pH changes. Thanks, Lynn. She put a simple answer down because this was confusing. pH is low when the stomach is empty. When we eat, pH rises, and then it triggers the secretion of more acid, which again lowers the pH. Question number 17. Know the four reasons nutrients are generally not absorbed by the stomach, as well as the 2 exceptions to the rule. The first reason is the mucus lining of the stomach prevents the chyme from coming into contact with the epithelial cells. Next, the epithelial cells of the stomach can't transport nutrients. And then the gastric lining is impermeable to water. Digestion is not complete when the chyme leaves the stomach before. And the 2 exceptions to this rule are alcohol and aspirin. They are absorbed by the stomach because they are lipid soluble and can penetrate the lining. Question number 18. Know the 3 major hormones produced by the pancreas, like glucagon, insulin, and somatostatin, and their function. Okay. In the pancreatic islets, the islets of Langerhans, they produce enzymes and hormones that break down food. Those hormones are glucagon, which raises blood sugar by working with the liver to produce glucose. Insulin, which reduces blood sugar by increasing the amount taken in by cells. And then finally, somatostatin, which suppresses digestive activity. Question number 20. Know that the major digestive function of the liver is to produce bile. Question number 21. Describe the structure of the liver lobule. Let's see. Each lobule is hexagon shaped, has a central vein runs through each lobule. At each corner is a portal triad made up of branches of the hepatic artery, hepatic portal vein, and bile duct. Question 22. Know the four functions of a hepatocyte. They produce bile, they produce nutrients, they produce bile, they process nutrients, they store fat-soluble vitamins, and detoxify the blood. And we're skipping all the way to 30. Be able to define diverticulosis and diverticulitis. Diverticulosis, the herniation of the mucosa through the colon walls, which are also called diverticulum walls. Diverticulitis is an inflammation of the diverticula and can be fatal if they rupture. 32. For lipids, be familiar how they're absorbed, i.e. they interact with bile to form micelles, triglycerides, and are reassembled coated with protein, thymocron. Micelles diffuse into the epithelium, and triglycerides are reassembled coated with proteins, and this combination is called the thymocron. Secreted into the interstitial space and are picked up by lacteals. They're too large to enter the blood capillaries and are carried through the lymphatic system to the bloodstream. Number 3. Know the four vitamins that are fat-soluble and the two major water-soluble vitamins. Just remember a DEK. You had it before. A, D, E, K. And the water-soluble ones are B, C. And B12 is absorbed by diffusion, and it has to be bound by the intrinsic factor produced in the stomach. So the fat-soluble ones are a DEK, water-soluble B, and C, and B12 does something funky with the intrinsic factor. In chapter 25, question 35, know what types of nerves innervate the kidneys and the effects they have. They're innervated by the renal plexus, which are mostly sympathetic nerves. They adjust the rate of urine formation by changing blood flow and pressure. They stimulate the release of renin, which restricts water and sodium loss, part of blood pressure control. Get all the way to 40. Know the two ways that substances can be reabsorbed. Hint, transcellular or paracellular. In transcellular reabsorption, substances pass from fluid through the membrane of the tubule cell and they travel across, then they exit the cell. In paracellular reabsorption, fluid leaks in between the cells. Question 42. Be able to describe the basic characteristics of urine, especially the pH and percentage of water. The pH is slightly acidic. It's got a pH of 6. It's slightly heavier than water, but it's 95% water. It contains urea, uric acid, creatine, sodium, potassium, calcium, magnesium, and bicarbonate ions. The odor is caused by the ammonia odor due to bacterial metabolism of solutes. 43. 3 layers of the bladder. Be able to describe 3 layers of the bladder and when reflective contractions start, at how many milliliters. Okay? 3 layers are the deep layer, which is the mucosa, and contains it's the transitional epithelium. The second layer, or the middle layer, the next one, and it's made up of the detrusor muscle, and the outside adventitia is areolar connective tissue. The urge to urinate is initiated about 200 milliliters. Stretch receptors in the walls are activated, and this activates reflective bladder contraction, but the brain decides it's convenient and appropriate to void your bowels. If not, the bladder contraction subsides. After another 200 to 300 milliliters, the reflexes start again. 45. Know the function of seminiferous tubules. Seminiferous tubules are responsible for the production of sperm. They converge to form a straight tubule that transports the sperm to the rete testis. 48. Know the functions of follicle-stimulating hormones, which promote sperm production in males and ooh development in females. And LH, luteinizing hormone. It stimulates the production of testosterone and estrogen and androgens. 49. Know how long an oocyte and sperm are viable after release. A mature egg or oocyte is viable for 12 to 24 hours after ovulation, and sperm are viable for about 24 to 48 hours after ejaculation. The last one is, how long does it take that little zygote to travel down to the uterus? It takes about 2 to 3 days. Okay, that's the end of the short ones.